Okay, so the podcast is it's so hard. So the podcast is called Public Display of Connection. It's a podcast where I have my favorite people on and they bring a poem that they like and then they read it, we discuss it, and then we get into more maybe deeper conversations and intimacy and talk about like where we connect and why we connect. And you might be thinking right now, hey, Aubrey, I don't like poetry. I don't get it. It makes me want to vom every time I look at it. And to that I say, maybe you just haven't read enough poems. Maybe you haven't read your poem yet that will really open you up to the idea of new ideas. And in the words of Walt Whitman, be curious, not judgmental. And maybe you'll hear a poem that you connect with and you'll start racing to your local library or bookshop and screaming at the top of your lungs, where the hell is the poetry section? And I'll be waiting there in the next aisle, creepily watching you, saying, hey, I told you so, and I'll be happy for you. In this episode, we sit down with the vivacious Jean Grant. We're going to talk about what it means to be wild and slutty. There's a brush with AI. We're going to talk about everything from donuts to buttholes, which are pretty much the same thing. So come along for the ride.
Sweet.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we going to get started once Aristotle starts running?
I mean, this could be in the podcast too.
Yeah.
You could be.
Sipping our tea simultaneously at the same time.
Sorry, I'm just going to drink some water. Be out of here in a second.
This podcast sponsored by water.
I don't think I've ever had lavender mint tea.
You gotta really taste it, There's a park if you go up the hill.
Donut store.
Running to the donut store. I'll take a chocolate.
All right, so you're good.
Chocolate glaze. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, baby.
Bye.
You're supposed to say it back. We have this joke that we don't like the expression like when people call their significant other baby because it sounds kind of gross. So we say it on purpose to bug each other, and then you have to say it back. So it's like it's kind of like the penis game, but
oh my God,
baby. So it'll be like brr.
I find myself saying like bebe, like. What's her face on Schitt's Creek?
Yes. Moira.
Bebe.
I love her. She's my favorite. Should we start?
Yeah.
I guess we have started. Thank you for coming on my podcast.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's called Public Display of Connection.
Love it.
It's us reading poetry, talking about what we get out of it, and then connecting to each other. So it's like a therapy session with poetry and, sometimes weed. But today
Great.
I can't because I have to drive somewhere.
Got it. I have never been high and given a podcast, so I'm glad we're not testing that out today. I think I would just be like, hi. And that's all I have to say.
That's how I was at that party the other night.
And I had no idea that you were stoned at all. You were quite chill. It was a chill pool party.
I hide it well. I was doing some research on the lady that we're reading a poem about today. Yes. And it's wild. She was a wild woman.
She was a wild woman. And like in the early 1900s too. I love her so much. Shall we reveal the name? Edna St. Vincent Millay.
I love that book
is
cover.
My favorite. I know. This book is just so gorgeous. And I'm like not a poetry person, but I love Edna St. Vincent Millay.
Yeah.
And so when you asked me to be on the podcast, I'm like, well, she's my ride or die. And she's like just... This has been this literary figure in my life for almost a decade now. But I love her so much. So it's just such a privilege and a joy to be here to talk about her and to read her poetry.
Yeah, I like it. I like it all. It's like one of the things that I like about this is that I'm finding stuff that I wouldn't have ever known about, or like I'm sure I've like heard her stuff or heard of her, but I've never actually read her stuff. And I learned that the term burning the candle at both ends comes from her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never realized that too. I just, read the poem like, great. But I wasn't sure if she created that or she, picked it up somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I certainly feel it in the current age.
Yes.
Of having multiple businesses and podcasts and dreams and career goals and things to do and mini jobs and big jobs. It's a lot.
It's a lot. We're always burning the candle.
Should we just take
ends.
a nap instead? Should we just be using this time to sleep?
Yes.
Yeah. She sounded like a wild woman, kind of like a modern day woman that would exist now very easily within like LA or like the queer community, because she was like in an open marriage, bisexual, was just like doing all sorts of wild things.
So independent too.
Yeah.
And I think just seeing how she was raised by her mom and also how her mom was raised by her mother, it was instilled in her of this independence, because I guess her grandmother was in this loveless marriage with so many children, and Vincent's mom just saw how unhappy her own mother was. And she encouraged her to like be with the man that she actually loved. And then Vincent's mom, she got a divorce from her husband, and then she was earning all the money mostly away and just writing letters to her daughters. Vincent was the oldest of 3 daughters. And so they just never had a male figure around. So it just makes so much sense how she had so much independence and agency and never, like, she always was, I think, exploring and not taking no for an answer from any man. Like she was always not in control, but like definitely like she was her own North Star.
Oh yeah. I read something where they were saying that like she had stopped by somewhere and it was like her second dick appointment of the day and she was on her way to her third. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Get it, girl.
Get it, girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to read the poem?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Also, first, who are you?
Oh my God. Hi. Who am
Who
I?
the heck are you? How'd you get here?
Well, I drove my car over this morning. So I'm Jean. My name is Jean Grant. And
Hi, Jean Grant.
Thank you. Hello. And I am an artist. I'm a performer and filmmaker, but most of all, a human being, just wandering Earth and figuring out how to be a human here. And
I'm familiar.
Yeah. And we met through my roommate, dear Clément, who we love.
Who will probably not watch this.
I'll make him.
Just kidding. He just likes to be sassy. He called me the other day and left me this message that was like, it was like, oh, if you answered, I was going to add you to my favorites list. But since you didn't, I guess not. It's like, dang, thwarted again. But yeah, so we met through Clément.
Oh God, where was it? Now I'm not quite sure, but I know like the moment that we met, I was like, this gal.
It was on set. It was on set. We were wearing matching jumpsuits.
We were.
And then we had a bunch of stuff in common. We were like from a same area, kind of. Like you're from Oregon. I lived in Oregon.
We're both from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought we had like the same birthday or something, but I don't think so.
October 13th?
No.
Okay.
November 29th for anyone who wants to send me gifts.
Hey. Put that Venmo handle on there. But yeah, it was like an immediate connection.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling so less stressed when I met you on set, because that was one I was producing for Clem.
Yeah.
And I was just like all over the place that day. And it was just so refreshing to meet
I felt
you.
that too. We're both very like extroverted. So it was very much like, yeah, hi, woo, hey, yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. Love a good roommate connection.
Yeah.
And speaking of roommate, in my apartment, Clem and I have so many plants. And my fiddle tree, whatever that.
Fiddle leaf fig.
Fiddle leaf fig tree.
Yeah.
Her name is Edna St. Vincent Millay. Had to be. So
Cut to a picture.
So shout out to my plant.
Yeah, we'll insert a picture of the plant right here. It'll be right here. You have to hold it up with me, and it'll be
insert.
Oh.
We love you, Vincent.
Let's read that poem.
So this is the first poem I was introduced to by Edna St. Vincent Millay. So without further ado, first fig. My candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. But ah, my foes, and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light. And that's it. Short and sweet, super to the point, and so much to digest. Like, I feel like when I first read it, first of all, figs.
Love figs.
Love a good fig. I just think of vaginas when I...
Really? Okay.
I mean, yeah. Or it's just such a sensual, sexual fruit. And even how it's made, it's very sexual how a fig blossoms.
Isn't like a bee fucks it and then dies?
Like a wasp, I think. Yeah. So it's like this alchemy of like a species and flower. I know, right? And it's the first fig. So I'm not sure where she was when she wrote this poem, but for me, a candle burning at both ends, like I feel like that's just a metaphor for my sexuality, how I live life. I can just never be
satisfied,
but or like just conformed to a certain life. Like if I feel like I'm shackled down in any way, not saying not being grounded, but just like not being able to express myself fully with freedom. I'm sorry, I touched the mic. I hope that's okay. Sorry. But I just feel like I'm kind of always yearning to live my life to the fullest, and that could be burning at all ends, not at both ends.
Yeah. And like I feel like learning about her made me understand the context of it, because it seemed like she had so much fire in her and desire and like just like the appetite for the living in her was ferocious.
Yeah.
And that, like, I relate to that for sure. Like, I love just exploring and seeking and new things and trying things. And there's just like so much life to be had.
Yeah. So much life to be had. Yeah. And within that, it can cause like so much connection and also so much chaos too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the line of like an oh my foes and oh my friends. Or ah my foes and oh my friends.
Oh.
Yeah. Interesting. Like I'm sure like I did not make my family happy when I decided I wanted to move to Australia and not come back for 4 years, or even just choosing to live a life of uncertainty. Like I've only had a full-time job once in my life, and that was for 3 months. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm a freelancer for life. And then seeing just how Vincent lived her life, she always wanted to be connected to nature and also have so many experiences, not be locked down at the same time.
It seemed like presence where like you see like she got married at some point, but it was like an open marriage, and they were like, hey, like we like love and care about each other, and she like fell in love with another man, but was like, hey, like I got you to her spouse. And but like throughout her life you see an aggressive sort of sense of presence. In just like, I'm here, I want to like follow this thing through of like, I'm attracted to this person, I want to be taking a bite. And I think it's important in life to not just be like, well, this is my life now, I'm just gonna keep doing this and do it for the rest of my life. Like that's like brain death to me.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, even the concept of marriage, having like your bachelor or bachelorette party the night before your marriage, it's like, oh, this is my last night of fun and freedom. It's like, hell no. Like Vincent did not sacrifice her freedom at all being married. it was like more expansive in a way for her.
Yeah, totally. I mean, she was definitely like, I would say like a little wilder than what maybe I would do. Maybe like maybe borderline sex addict. But for the time, I'm like, get it, girl. Like,
for sure.
I think that like in her work, there's definitely a lot of like it almost feels just like a pelvic thrust. I was reading her poem. Was it Renaissance? Renaissance, and it just feels like every line is like, like it's like this kind of like the breaking of the glass ceiling, and like it's like that like level of gusto. It felt like necessary because I imagine at the time it was probably a lot harder just to be that way in any regard. So like, I feel like her attitude of being like, oh yeah, like you guys want me to conform. I'm going to fuck everyone and never like behave. And it really is like, yeah, like her work really reflects that kind of like energy that was needed in order to break out of that conformity.
For sure.
I did hear that she was mean to her servants, though, which made me kind of like
I never
sad.
knew that. Oh.
Yeah. It was like something about them like not having real feelings or like having like monkey problems. And like, so she was, and like, they were like, yeah, she was mean, but like talented.
Well, I mean, I guess every artist has an ego in their own way.
Yeah.
And no one's perfect. But thank you for saying that. I didn't know.
Maybe
I put her on the pedestal for so long.
We did that with like Bukowski on an episode where I was like, I love Bukowski. And then somebody was like, oh, the guy who like beats women. I was like,
Like, say what? Say what again?
Like, but I mean, like, who knows though? It's like a writing thing. Like, there's some stuff that I've written that if somebody read it, they'd be like, what? But it's just kind of off-gassing. But maybe she had a really shitty servant. Is that like...
I guess we'll never know.
I feel like you just...
being a fly in the wall in that room.
You can't complain if you have a servant, you know? Whether your servant's good or bad, you have a servant.
Yeah. I didn't even know she had servants.
Yeah. She was rich. She was like, she would make like $300,000 a year off of poetry. Back then. Like it was the equivalent of that. I'm like, what? Where is that?
Where is that now?
I want that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's like everybody's flawed and everybody has their moments. The things that like stand out are her work. And I think that that's the important thing.
Yeah. And she was such an activist and a feminist. So that's a shame to like hear that she didn't treat her servants right. Yeah. But in the public eye, she was very much a fighter for independence and freedom. And I think that's just so palpable in her work. And when I discovered her poetry, that was something that I didn't realize I was just integrating post art school life, because art school is all about exploration and freedom, but then within a confined boundary, right? So it's like, how do I continue to grow and expand and not get like beaten down by like, you know,
the man. Yeah. I definitely relate to that, where it's like, I think it's like you learn the structure so that you know how to break it later. But I do think that there can be like a lot of constraints in art with like filmmaking. There's the whole, you can't do it like that because this is the way that we've been doing it. But then at the same time, the minute somebody does it and it works, it's like, oh, they're a genius. Yeah. But history is not kind to the artist who is the revolutionary artists historically. They're always like, burn them. And then like a couple of years later, once
I found this on the web for history is not kind to artists. Revolutionary artists historic either. Check it out.
Oh my God, thank you, Siri. She wanted to chime in. She had an opinion too.
The robots are taking over. AI. Okay, that was weird. Did I say the word, I'm not going to say it, but eeriously with an S?
Oh,
that
maybe,
can be,
yeah,
that can trigger.
That could trigger.
Trigger warning for
for AI.
What were we saying before? Somebody rudely interrupted.
What I was going to say before, you know, who interrupted, was that Vincent was talking about themes that women weren't really speaking about in poetry at that time, but her form was so traditional because it was very, she wrote in sonnets and, she grew up with a lot of classical texts like Shakespeare. So I just found that I think that's also why I love her work so much. She was in this form. She was so revolutionary.
Yeah. I liked it. I was a fan.
Should we read the second poem?
Yeah. Do you want to read the first one again? I like to read them twice just because it's like talking about it and then reading it again. It really gives you a nice little second bite.
It does.
Real quick, so there's first fig and second fig.
Second fig.
What is the significant? And I couldn't find really the significant of like like what that meant.
I think so. From the book that it's called, it's from A Few Figs from Thistles.
Oh, okay.
So that's like the whole collection of poetry. So
that makes sense.
First Fig and Second Fig are the first two poems of that book.
Now I want figs.
No, I know. I just want all the figs. Okay. First fig. My candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. But ah, my foes, and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light. Yeah. Second fig?
Yeah.
And then rolling right into second fig. Safe upon the solid rock, the ugly houses stand. Come and see my shining palace built upon the sand.
That kind of feels like what her life was.
Yeah.
It was like shiny, burning, or was that like you burn bright but fast or something? There's like a shooting star like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like I feel like in life you want to do that, but then there's the other part that's like you should have a 401k. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it feels like life should be that, where it's just like, I'm just gonna fucking like go for it and
yeah.
Because like we're all gonna die someday, and why not do some stuff?
A comet could hit us at any moment,
right?
I mean, we had a global pandemic, and if you're not doing what you are passionate about now, then it's like, well, now is the time. Like,
yeah. For you, like, what moments in your life have been the like when you stepped out and did something brave, where you felt like you were burning bright at both ends?
Ooh, yeah. You know, I think I've always had that inner voice in me to do that, and I was always fighting against like my own trauma throughout my life, but there have been like snippets where they were super bright. I think one of them was going to drama school in Australia. I just was like, I can't finish this other degree. I know I need to do this, and I know it sounds crazy, but this is just where I need to be and be like just my bright shining self, which, you know, that wasn't all drama school. It was a lot of like break yourself down and build yourself back up again. Yeah. But we were burning bright doing that.
Well, like moving away from home too is just like such a break you down, build yourself back up, because you can really like be whoever you want in another place.
Yeah, and especially in a different country.
Yeah.
And I always knew I wanted to live abroad, and so I think that was like probably at that time in my life like a very big step to take, and just jumping into the unknown and not knowing where I was going to land. Like at first, I think I remember after like my first year, I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue, but then I decided to stay, and so fucking glad I did. It was so challenging and difficult, but I guess expanded more into myself. Yes. Other times I think it's like taking risks and in my career, whether or not it was like the destined path. Like I took a risk last year and like went full time for a trial period. And
it's scary.
It's scary. But I was in a big leadership role, and that really helped so much with any kind of like imposter syndrome that I had, or with leading a team. Like I always knew I had it in me, but like embodying that role, it helped me grow so much. Just with having my 2 feet on the ground and feeling solid and grounded, which I think can make me be solid and grounded on the sand, being that shining palace on the sand. I felt like I was in the ugly houses.
Yeah.
But that time, I think just taking the risk and doing something where I just had never been in that role before, that helped me move forward.
That's such a fun, like the ugly houses on the rock. Like to me, that invokes like an office building.
Yes.
Those housing developments where everything's beige, like that kind of stuff where it's like having the same schedule every week. Like it's terrifying to me because I have like, it's like FOMO. But then the idea of like doing the same thing every day or doing it in a space that doesn't feel good or feel beautiful or natural, or just like being engaged with things around you, like that's so vital, at least for me. Like some people, I mean, like somebody needs to like do the taxes, but not me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what an accountant is for.
Yeah. You know? And there's like some people... Pause for crime helicopters.
Welcome to LA.
Just hunting
sexy crime.
The bad guys or gals. Anybody can be bad. We don't discriminate here. Yeah, it is hard though being so wild and free when you're like, when you kind of like want some stability though, like money, or just like to know where you're going to be at any given point, where it's like, it's hard to plan and to have things where you're like, okay, like I know that I'm going this direction. It can be like, for me at least, I feel like it's like a balance of like wrestling with those two parts of myself. That's just like, you can't tame me. And then I'm like, but I would like this amount in my bank account at all times to feel secure. And I want to know the plan, you know, before I have to shave my legs, do I need to do this? That's the amount of planning that I like.
Yeah.
You know, just a week ahead of time.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's a constant balance for me too, and for all artists. I think especially after COVID, like I knew I had to go for what I wanted, but also I felt this insane paranoia of being stable and having stability. And I think you can have both. And
how do you find that in your life? Like what? Tell me, I need it. Just tell me how to get it.
Yeah. I think giving myself a routine.
Like a rituals?
Like a ritual, yeah. Like every morning, I always go on a long walk with my dog. And it's either I start off the day with a meditation and then, or a journal entry, and then I just go on a long walk. I try to get an hour in with my coffee, and I just start the day. If I'm listening to music or a podcast or an audiobook or just like the sounds of nature. Yes. Like this one. And that for me it just grounds me, and that helps me balance my workday, whether it's my day job or just my art projects or life projects.
Yeah.
You know.
Having some sort of like grounding activity.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I was full time, I like had that grounding personal activity, and then a very like, office schedule. But then there would always be like after hour meetings. And so that was really hard for me to have that shining palace on the sand. It was very much on a boulder, and that was difficult. But But to each their own.
Yeah.
Some people thrive in that.
Do you apply that to like dating? Because I think that there's like, I think that the approach to dating that some people have is, oh my God, we're like literally in a man.
It's so
there's
hot
like a
right now for crime.
We'll just, we'll edit this out. It might not even be on the thing because these mics are so delicious.
Yummy.
Yeah. It's like kind of tempting to just use your voice in a sensual way.
Or suddenly a midnight talk radio show.
Thanks for calling the love line.
1-800-LOV. Baby.
All we do is send you affirmations. You're good enough. This is your mother. I should have hugged you more.
Thanks, Mom. But to dating life.
Yeah. Do you burn bright? And are you like the type of person where you're just like, oh my God, I met somebody. There's fire there. I'm in love with them. I'm going to tell them right away because like that's the spice of life, is to just be like, fucking like, let's do this and see where it goes. Or is it like, I'm going to just inch by inch kind of get there?
Yes and no and all in between. I do date a lot, and I've been single for the last year and a half. And so I've just been approaching dating very differently. I think when I was first introduced to Vincent's work and heard about how she approached dating and lovers, I just wanted to embody that, because I think I was just taught from a very young age to be a damsel in distress, and that never has felt right to me.
Yeah.
Not a damsel in distress, but to let the man take the lead. And especially coming into my queerness, I was like, well, like, I don't want to wait for someone to take the lead. Can't we just be mutual and like connect and like it be equal?
I'm like, why can't I be the Casanova here? I'm going to hit on people.
Why can't I be the Leo? I don't want to be the Juliet. But I think I was fighting against so much conditioning and just figuring out like what that looked for me. And now having been on the other side of my breakup, it's like, oh, wow, like pressure's off now. Like I had the experience of the big love and what worked for me and what didn't work for me. And it ended up feeling very like me feeling like an ugly house on the rock. Like I felt very confined and like a wifey. And I was like, well, that's not me. That's not what
I'm wild.
Yeah, baby. I want freedom. I want independence. And so I think in the last year and a half, I've definitely been like flaming up. I've been flaming up, whether it's love or lust or just putting myself out there.
That's great. I love that for you.
Thank you.
I had that when I was like 28. I kind of like burst out of my shell and went off on a trip to, I was in like Ireland, Scotland, and England. And I just went buck wild. And I was like, I'm going to have sex with whoever I want. And there was like, a butcher and like a bartender, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. But like, I find like traveling was like a nice outlet of that, where you're just kind of like, I just want to like feel good and feel adventurous and be in the moment and have like passion and like good. That's my goal, is like good stories as an old lady.
Oh,
and like, it's like people can look at you now and be like, slut, but then like the minute an old lady is like, well, let me tell you what I did, people are like, oh, get it, granny? And I'm like, yeah, like I want to have good stories, and I want to taste the banquet of all life has to offer. But at the same time, like I like, like having a partner and having like somebody to who is like consistent and like has that balance there, but it's like finding somebody who can like run with you and be wild with you that I think
Totally.
is the nice treat.
Oh my God, yes. I was just having this conversation last night. I wasn't sure if I was on a date, but I think it was not a date, and she's just going to be an awesome friend. But she was asking me if that's what I wanted right now. Like, am I looking for a partnership? And I was just like, like my heart finally feels open again and ready for love. So like, hell yes. I think it's beautiful to have a partner, but like Vincent, she had a partner, but she had her freedom. Oh,
motherfucker.
All the AIs. Hi. She had a partner, but she had her freedom and she had her independence, and she didn't get, the key. And that's the key. And so I think I'm looking and seeking to infuse the two, but there's no rush, right? Because I've learned in my short 34 years, when I rush something for a goal, it burns up way too quickly, and leads me into this fiery pit of ash and hell.
Especially with relationships. Like, you just can't force anything or force anybody to be anything that they're not. I'm finding now, as I'm in a relationship.
Yeah, she is.
That it is like liberating because it's correct and it's right, and because we are well matched, and there's like balance there where they're just like, like I like that you're wild. Maybe it scares me a little bit, but like, it's what I like about you. And rather than somebody who's just like, you need to cool it. It's like they kind of they stoke your fire.
Just got a little trigger there. Uh-oh. Trigger warning. Yeah.
Do we want to unpack that?
Well, to relate to Vincent, like, I think if she encountered anyone who tried to cool her flame, she was like, yeah, no, thank you. And
I don't know what this symbol is. I was like, get out of here. But it was like,
I'm glad this is a moving picture podcast, so people can see.
Go.
Yeah.
Get your butthole
to go.
Get your butthole out of here. That's what this is. Me and my partner the other night, we were talking about like intimacy, and we were like saying like, wow, we're really doing it. And I was like, but I don't think it gets like real until you've like seen each other's buttholes.
I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever like examined the butthole.
Yeah, it was.
That's real intimacy.
We haven't got there yet, but
have a little
maybe
have a little telescope to go right in there.
Yeah.
Well,
you were
saying. Well, to unpack that, like, I think I've found myself in relationships where I have dimmed my light to hold on to love, or what I thought was love, or validation of love. And no way Jose anymore. Like, nah, if you're going to try to dim any light going on here, like, get the hell out of here.
And who would want to be with somebody that was like dimmer, you know? Like, wouldn't you, like, if you're attracted to somebody for their razzle dazzle and pizzazzle, why would you want them to? I don't know. I guess people are insecure and they've got all their like past stuff, past trauma of their own.
Yeah.
And, like,
it's not ever really about you.
Yeah.
Right? It's about where they're at. And so,
you know what it is too? There's the whole like bad boy theory of like where it was like, oh, like, why do women love a bad boy? And it's like they think that they can change him. And so it's like they want to be the one that you like calm it down for, because it's like flattering to them, and not necessarily like men or women, like everybody can do this, but it's like it's appealing to be like, oh, they changed their ways for me because I'm so special, because they're so in love with me. And like that just, I mean, it happens sometimes, but not.
it just sounds so gross to me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, ew. But like,
It's
also,
so
I've been in that
narcissistic.
position before, and
it's romantic.
it's
like,
romantic, and also a lot of conditioning of said patriarchy.
Johnny Cash, June Carter.
Oh my
kind
God,
of dynamic.
gender roles.
Yeah.
150%.
Yeah.
So,
It's like she came back to nurse him back to health, but like he was a mess. But he changed his ways for her because she was so great. Romance. Heteronormative romance.
can't there just be like a healthy connection?
Oh my
where
God,
you just
there
honor
is.
where you guys are at, and
There
you
is. I'm in
lift
one
each
right
other
now.
up and not dim each other down. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get it.
Thank
Like,
you.
you'll get it.
Oh, thanks. But until then, I think this is like a great follow-up poem.
Oh,
Because it's another short poem.
Yeah.
It's called Thursday, also from A Few Figs from Thistles. I had to remember that title.
I love the word thistle. Like, it's always
Thistle.
got me in a weird way where I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
right?
It's
such a good
It's a
word.
dangerous plant. You can get poked.
But the word is so invocative of the plant.
Yeah.
Thistle.
Thistle. But then like this beautiful, bountiful, soft fig is from a thistle. Yeah. We can unpack this for days. Okay.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. So this poem's called Thursday.
Okay.
And if I love you, let me try that again. And if I loved you Wednesday, well, what is that to you? I do not love you Thursday, so much is true. And why you come complaining is more than I can see. I loved you Wednesday, yes, but what is that to me?
Yeah.
She was a comedian too.
Yeah. She's I don't want to say like cold, but like there's definitely like an iciness to her where she's just like, you better
Yeah.
come correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just like, that was a one night stand. Yeah. It was great. I loved it. Maybe it was love for that night, but I'm not interested the next morning, or I can just drink my coffee by myself. Bye.
Yeah. Nobody owes you themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I go back and forth with this poem. Like, is she like so cold, or is she just like, no, I know what that was. That was just a shared experience of pleasure, and we can just keep moving about our lives.
How is she so wise? Did she have a therapist? Did she go to betterhelp.com, who is probably sponsoring this podcast because they sponsor every goddamn podcast?
Yes. Or Squarespace.
Squarespace. Please sponsor me.
Every single damn podcast. She infuses a lot of nature in her poetry for so much metaphor. And she grew up on the coast of Maine. And I feel like that is her therapy, and that is her sanctuary. And that's nature is what got her through grief, even when she was grieving her late husband. She was just like meditating 24/7, like watching the waves roll in, like, God damn it, I wish I have that. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you could half hour away, you could go to the Santa Monica Pier, but that's not nature.
but
really.
yeah, but even so, it's like we have to intentionally be like, I am turning my phone off for 2 weeks, everybody, and I'm going out in nature. Like that wasn't even,
Yeah.
a thought then. So yeah, I think there's different like eras for like no one had a better life than the other. Like we
Yeah.
have conveniences now, but I think it's also the detriment of us.
I think it's
too.
called, there's a term for it. It's called chronological snobbery.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
It's like basically being like, oh, they were so uncivilized back then. But one thing that like back in the day, you notice like the men writing like love letters that are just like gorgeous. Things have shifted around, but I feel like like romanticism and truth and beauty and stuff, like they can be found throughout the ages.
Yeah. Now it's just I made a Spotify playlist for you.
I did do that for that was like one of the
Oh my God, I've
things.
done that before too.
I did that for my current partner because they're like a musician, and I was like, they were on like a long car ride, and I was like, I'm gonna make you a playlist.
That's so sexy. I wish there was still like, I wish I could still burn a CD for someone and like decorate it.
yes.
Like my high school boyfriend and I did that all the time. It was
remember
so
that.
romantic.
What was your like the best mix? Where I'd be like Aubrey's Big Pimpin' mix with the bangers.
I think I had a summertime mix, and it definitely featured Will Smith's Summertime on it.
As it should.
But like this was like when you could print out labels, like design your own label for the CD. Yeah. Microsoft 95 Windows. And like, it was like a sticker that you would put on, and there was some palm trees on there and like some like Comic Sans fonts, but yeah.
Papyrus.
Papyrus. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely my love letters, making playlists. But yeah, going back to Thursday, I feel like Vincent was definitely always in the present moment. Yeah. So really honoring where her heart was at. And I think that's how she's able to be so detached from this particular incident. So maybe the guy or woman that she thought, or they thought they were falling in love with her, she was like, oh no, do you not know what this was? Like,
yeah, like expectations are very dangerous to have when you're not like, also it's like been a day, calm down.
I mean, she was with a lot of people, so I think she could discern what love was for her, what romantic love was for her, and what lust was, and what it was, you know, combined together.
It's confusing sometimes too, because you're like, I just had this passionate moment with someone, and like, how could that not be love? Like, how could they not want more of this? And there's like, from, you know, like, it's like, how can you just take one bite of a donut and be like, it's like when you cut off like when somebody brings donuts and you're like, I'm just gonna cut off this one little corner here, and then you eat that, and then you're like, I'm just gonna cut off this other corner, and I'm not eating the whole donut, and then like you just keep cutting corners off until you've eaten the whole donut.
That's me in a slice of pie, like just a sliver, just another sliver here, and then I'm like, I had fourth of pie. Great.
But so, like, some people are like that, some people aren't. Where some people, like, it takes longer for them to love and to want that.
I think I'm getting better at deciphering what kind of connection I am having, and it's only through like many years and trials and tribulations of dating, but or just even, you know, short-term happenings. But it's exciting to be able to decipher what that is, or even to be caught off guard by what I thought something was going to be.
Or just like a sense of ownership over your own feelings, first and foremost. Of like, this is like, I want this, and I'm going to be like true to myself.
Yeah.
I think that goes to like to the weather of like how being in tune with like your own body's climate of like, okay, like this is how I'm feeling today.
I feel it. Yeah. Like she was definitely in like presently feeling her body and her emotions, like
that's
where
what
she
I
was
meant.
at. Yeah.
You said
it. And like whoever the suitor was, like perhaps they were holding on to something that was just that moment in time.
They didn't want to go with the flow.
Yeah. I've been on both sides of this coin before.
Same.
Yeah. Like I once had this like incredible connection with a man from a different city, and I was so confused why the universe gave me this time, because I was like, oh my God, like what is going on? Like my heart is, this connection is amazing, and nothing I've ever felt before. It felt so healthy and safe and just sexy as hell. And I had to return home. And I just had to let it go, because I knew I wasn't going to be moving to his city, and he wasn't going to be moving to mine. But like,
but you had it.
I can look back on that time and be like, wow, that was such a beautiful moment. You know, I loved. Then that was like, I was brave and honored that.
It's like Disneyland. Like you don't always get to like stay. Sometimes you go for the day, but you still have the experience and you still have the memory. And like, there's like things where it's like you like we are like moving through time and space, and there's things are always like the only thing we can count on is things changing. And so to like be present and have the experience is really like the enjoyable part of it, is like to not be like, okay, like I'm enjoying this now, but I'm going to not enjoy it just in case of this thing that happens in the future, but being like, this in this moment, this feels right and good, and I'm gonna do it or go after that thing, even if it is like moving somewhere else. I think people are like, I can't ever do that and uproot my life, and where it's like, I don't know, try it.
Yeah.
Move back if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Like go with the flow. Like there's just so many options that I think we limit ourselves with adventure and joy and romance. And because we just have such a tight grip on it.
Oh my God. Yes. And if I knew I was meant to like move to this other city, I would have done it. But I just knew I'm like, no, I'm meant to stay in LA.
You listened to your weather.
I listened to my weather, even if it was really hard.
Yeah. Do you want to read the letter?
Yes. Oh my God.
So I loved this. One of the things about poetry is that it does not pay, even though she was making money at it for a while. But like, I love this attitude of like, I've felt this way about art and poetry and like the people in society that are kind of like the magic fairies that sprinkle the magic around, that like the people who do the taxes don't necessarily have the bandwidth to think of like, you know, what would be cool? Like you need those people to inject goodness into society. And like the person who's like, I'm going to like make a decorative salad instead of a regular salad. Like there needs to be like space and bandwidth to support that, like making life beautiful, and like the people who can like sit around and ruminate on just like what it means to be a human, so that like when that person's done with their paperwork in their office, they can have something to like digest and enjoy. And like people love art and beauty, and I think that there is a value to it. So I think like poetry is such a nice, it's such a nice like celebration of just like humanity and like what's special about it and what's significant. And intimate and like dear to our hearts. And society does not support it enough.
No, but they like to eat up the content, but not think about the person making the content and their needs. Yes.
It costs money to sit around looking at the crashing of the waves and pondering what it means to a human.
Yeah. I mean, why do we go on artist retreats? We need that time for our brains to like, to just, you know, paid time to just to think and to breathe,
to channel. I think you are like channeling earth and humanity, and it's like coming through your body and like out your mouth and your hands, and like there's a sense of like just stillness and lack of anxiety that is needed, I think, in order to work. But at the same time, you kind of need those human experiences of struggle in order to have something to write about. But I'd like a little less of that. I'd just like to be able to sit for like, you know, maybe a couple days a week and be like,
give me all of the emotional struggles, but not the financial struggles. Like, please just send me my paycheck. Like, man.
Should I have a Patreon for this? Maybe I should.
Yeah, maybe you should.
Feet pics. Maybe I'll sell.
Put that Venmo handle on there.
Do you want to show off your foot for the people? I just make all my guests like take foot pictures. So this is a letter that you found that I thought was adorable.
Yes. This is in the back of the book.
Kitsune.
And, Kitsune's here. Kitsune's my puppy dog. This is to Harriet Monroe at 139 Waverly Place in New York City, March 1st, 1918.
Wow.
Dear Harriet Monroe, spring is here, and I could be very happy, except that I am broke. Would you mind paying me now instead of on publication for those so stunning verses of mine which you have? I am become very, very thin and have taken to smoking Virginia tobacco. Wistfully yours, Edna St. Vincent Millay. P.S. I am awfully broke. Would you mind paying me a lot? God, I love her so much. Straight to the point. That's like me when there's a net 30. I'm like, hey, what the hell is this bullshit, net 30? Just pay me now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just, money's great. We should wrap up on that. Money's great, and I hope we get donuts.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you did this. I feel like I found a new writer that I really
God.
enjoy. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank
and
you for
sharing
inviting me.
your time
Oh my God,
and
thank
your
you.
heart and soul
God.
and the cool glasses with
Stop.
us, me, and my watchers, all 3 of them.
Soon to be 4, 5, 6, maybe 8.
Oof.
Maybe 39.
Maybe a baker's dozen. Is it turning back into like love phone? That's
That's how we're going to sign off.
love phone.
Baby.
So call in.
Full circle ending.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to plug
Oh.
besides our venture of love phone?
Oh my God. Well, anything I'd like to plug. I am on the social media.
Do you want people to find you?
You can find me at Gene Grant Presents.
It'll
I
be right
post
here
my
in my
work on
hand.
there, my films. Like I said, I'm a filmmaker and a performer. I also dance a lot on my Instagram,
It's great.
mostly to some groovy
Sparks.
Sparks is a main squeeze of mine. And I'm usually dancing very seriously. I seriously dance.
It's like passionate.
Passionate dancing.
Yeah.
Not quite interpretive, not quite
Celebratory.
contemporary. Celebratory. Yeah. And my dog Kitsune, I make her dance with me too. So
That's great. So people can follow you there.
they can follow me
and-
there. They can be updated on my new work and new projects coming up, which I'm excited.
What are you going to eat for lunch?
Well, I'm hoping for a donut now.
Donuts for lunch.
I'm hoping for a donut now. But thank you so much for having me.
So at the end,
This
we
is a joy.
do a little hug if you are into that.
I'm a hugger. 150%.
Come on.
Yay. Oh, thank you for having me.
Isn't it nice to just like have human touch? Although I can't, the blood's cutting off of my throat.
It's always nice.
in the nape of your thing.
Oh my God.
Like in the perfect position where I was like, all that was like, goo, 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 goo. It was a lovely hug.
It was such a good hug. And
But I lived through it.
also, I'm very excited to learn about new poets. So I
Yeah.
cannot wait to listen and expand my poetry roster. So thank you for your work
Yay.
and your heart. Bye. Bye. This was so fun.
Yay.